Alright, so we should be back right now. I think everything's working good. So, as usual, we're going to be reacting to some videos, and this is the one that we're going to be looking at first.
Tron is back.
Pleasure.
And it demands to be seen on the biggest
Alright,
screen possible
song.
with a staggeringly brilliant soundtrack.
Dubai,
Alright. So, we're going to be watching Every Word's the Science City Explained in 9 minutes by Urban Planner Explained. Alright, let's see.
It's the future, but forgot people actually need to walk places. This desert metropolis spent billions creating artificial islands shaped like palm trees, while its residents sit in 3-hour traffic jams because the metro only covers 15% of the city.
Damn.
Welcome to the world's most expensive parking lot with a beach view. The city's entire design philosophy seems to be, what if we made everything as far apart as possible?
Oh my god.
The Marina and JBR districts pack 120,000 people into towers, but provide exactly 0 grocery stores at ground level.
No grocery
Walking
stores.
from your apartment to the beach 200 meters away means navigating a 14-lane highway with no crosswalk.
No
They built
way.
the world's tallest building but forgot sidewalks. The Burj Khalifa
There's no
sits on Sheikh
sidewalks?
Zayed Road, a 12-lane nightmare where pedestrians play real-life Frogger. Summer temperatures hit 50 degrees Celsius, 122 degrees Fahrenheit. Yet they designed outdoor spaces with 0 shade. The city's solution to everything is air conditioning, burning enough energy to power entire countries. Property developers promised sustainable living while building ski slopes in the desert. That's not
Ski
city.
slopes in the fucking desert. Who's the retard that had that idea? Why is my green screen like that? Come on, man. God. Alright, we have to restart this fucking video already. Oh my god.
Dubai thinks it's the future, but forgot people actually need to walk places. This desert metropolis spent billions creating artificial islands shaped like palm
Billions.
trees, while its residents sit in 3-hour traffic jams because the metro only covers 15% of the city. Welcome
Damn,
to the world's most
15%.
expensive parking lot with a beach view. The city's entire design philosophy seems to be, what if we made everything as far apart as possible? The Marina and JBR districts pack 120,000 people into towers, but provide exactly 0 grocery stores at ground level. Walking from your apartment to the beach 200 meters away means navigating a 14-lane highway with no crosswalk.
14-lane highway
They built
with
the
no
world's
crosswalk.
tallest building but forgot sidewalks.
How do you get across?
The Burj Khalifa sits on Sheikh Zayed Road, a 12-lane nightmare where pedestrians play real-life Frogger. Summer temperatures
Damn.
hit 50 degrees Celsius, 122 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's
Yet
so
they
hot.
designed outdoor
Dude, once I have like 90-degree summers and I'm inside, I feel like I'm getting burnt up. I can't stand the heat for that long. For me, it just like messes with me. I can't, simply can't have it. It just kind of annoys me being too hot. So if I'm winning in the summer and I want to go outside, but it's 122 degrees out, hell no, I'm going straight back inside to the cool AC.
spaces with 0
I hate
shade.
sweating.
The city's solution to everything is air conditioning, burning enough energy to power entire countries. Property developers promised sustainable living while building ski slopes in the desert.
Who had this dumbass fucking idea to put ski slopes in the desert? Who's the genius that put ski slopes on the desert? Is that even profitable?
That's not city planning, that's city scamming.
It is.
Houston proudly has no zoning laws, and it shows. You can build a strip club next to a school, a chemical plant next to houses, and nobody can stop you.
A strip. He fucking strip club next to a school. Those fucking high schools, ones that he's senior year. I think they're allowed to go inside of a strip club, right? Once you hit 18. Yeah, right? So after school, they just go inside a fucking strip club. That's fucking hilarious.
This free-for-all approach created America's most chaotic cityscape, where nothing makes sense and everything floods. The city spreads across 670 square miles with the population density of a rural farm. The famous Be Someone graffiti bridge overlooks 26 lanes of highway interchange. That's not traffic infrastructure, that's concrete cancer. Houston has 640 square miles of sprawl, but only 50 miles of rail. The average resident spends $12,000 yearly on car expenses because being a pedestrian is considered an extreme sport. They paved over 40% of the wetlands that naturally absorbed rainfall, then act surprised when Harvey dumped 50 inches and turned highways into rivers.
50
The city's
inches.
drainage system was designed in 1940 for a population 1/4 of today's size. Every tropical storm becomes an apocalypse. Your morning commute from Katy to downtown takes 90 minutes to travel 30 miles.
30 miles in 30. No. 30 miles in a little bit of now. Fucking hell, bro. It takes you an hour and a half to get to 30 miles. That's like you're driving 15 miles per hour for 30 miles. That's how long it's gonna take you to fucking get there. Hell no, I'm speeding. I mean, if there's traffic, I can't do anything, to be honest.
You know your urban planning failed when ambulances can't reach hospitals during rush hour.
Oh my god.
Perth sits 2,700 kilometers from any other major city, making it possibly the most isolated metropolis on Earth. But instead of building up, Perth built out, creating suburban sprawl that would make Phoenix jealous.
Sprawl.
The metropolitan area stretches 150 kilometers north to south along the coast, but it's only 50 kilometers wide. It's basically a giant parking lot with a beach. The
Really?
population density is lower than most rural towns in Europe. Public transit exists in theory but not practice. Buses run once per hour on weekends if they show up at all. The train system has 5 lines that all run north-south, so traveling east-west means driving. They're building suburbs 80 kilometers from the CBD, where the nearest grocery store is a 20-minute drive. New developments like Ellenbrook waited 30 years for promised rail connections while residents burned through cars like disposable razors. The
Damn.
city's water supply depends on rainfall that's decreased 20% since 1970, yet they're still building pools in every backyard. Traffic congestion costs
That
the
looks so
economy.
weird. Wait, look at that house.
Yet they're still
That looks so fucking weird. They have a pool next to a farm. Or what looks like to be a farm. And they look like modern houses. That's so weird.
building pools in every backyard. Traffic congestion costs the economy $2 billion annually, but the
Fuck,
solution is
2
always
billion.
just one more highway lane. Downtown Perth becomes a ghost town after 6 p.m. because everyone is stuck in their cars an hour away. Brasilia was
Oh, hell
supposed to be
no.
the city of the future, but the future apparently doesn't include humans. The city looks amazing from an airplane, shaped like a bird, or bow and arrow, depending on your imagination. But try living there. The residential superblocks sound great until you realize they're 400 meters apart with empty grass between them. That's a 10-minute walk through nothing to visit your neighbor. The
Oh,
city
hell no.
center is just government buildings and banks. No shops, no cafes, no life.
So what's
Workers
the point
flood
of
in
it?
at 9 a.m. and evacuate at 5 p.m. as if a siren has gone off. They separated
shit.
everything by function: banking sector, hotel sector, hospital sector. Want to grab lunch after your doctor's appointment? Drive 15 minutes to the restaurant sector. The monumental axis is a 6-lane highway with ministry buildings lined up like dominoes. Crossing it on foot requires waiting for a 5-minute traffic light cycle.
5
The
minutes.
cathedral's entrance is underground because
For
apparently
the
God loves
first city, that's
basements.
horrible.
The residential wings were designed for 500,000 people max, but 3 million live in the metro area now, mostly in
3
unplanned
million.
satellite cities. These favelas have more street life than the planned center. The city that was supposed to eliminate class divisions created Brazil's most segregated metro area.
I think about Grammarly and how it's helped me prepare not just briefs, but really scripts that allow.
Brussels is the de facto capital of
Brussels.
Europe, but can't figure out basic urban planning.
Where's Brussels?
This is what happens when you let 19 different municipalities run one city with zero coordination. The city demolished entire neighborhoods in the 1960s for office buildings that look like parking garages. The
That
Mont
looks
des
weird.
Arts, meant to be a cultural garden, is now a concrete wasteland with a view of more concrete. They built the Berlaymont, Mont, the EU headquarters, on top of a medieval street pattern, creating permanent traffic chaos. The inner ring road cuts straight through neighborhoods, spewing pollution while moving at walking speed during rush hour. Different districts have different rules for everything: parking, construction, even garbage collection. Your recycling day changes when you cross the street. The North Quarter was bulldozed for a business district that never materialized, leaving empty lots for 40 years. The city has 3 incompatible public transit systems because the regions can't agree on anything. A metro ticket doesn't work on buses run by different companies. Property
Oh my God, that would
developers have more
suck.
power than city planners, which explains why every historic building becomes luxury apartments. The Grand Place is gorgeous, but walk 200 meters in any direction and you're in urban hell. Calgary sprawls across 850 square kilometers of prairie with the population density of a suburb. The entire city is designed around the assumption that everyone drives a pickup truck and loves it. Downtown
Fuck
has
no.
plus 15 skyways because walking outside in winter is a form of self-punishment. The downtown is a ghost town of office towers connected by hamster tubes. The suburbs sprawl endlessly in every direction with identical houses and identical strip malls.
Dude, seeing identical houses in like neighborhoods that there's 20 houses next to each other that look exactly the same, that kind of creeps me out. Like there's like neighborhoods in the US that yes, the house kind of looks similar, but they're kind of different at the same time, and I love that. But if you have the exact same house, same paint, same driveway, same tree, like this fucking picture has the same trees throughout the whole fucking road. So it just creeps me out. It just doesn't seem real.
Communities like Tuscany are 20 kilometers from downtown with exactly one road connecting them. Miss your
That's
exit?
kind of nice.
Enjoy your 20-minute detour.
20 minutes
The
each
C
of
train
fuck.
covers a fraction of the city, and buses stop running at 11 p.m. Hope you didn't want a social life. New communities are built without sidewalks because everyone drives anyway. They're building on floodplains despite 2013's billion-dollar disaster. Apparently,
Oh my
they
God.
think water respects property lines. Winter city design means 6 months of ice-covered sidewalks because clearing them is property owner responsibility. Property
Fuck
taxes
that.
fund suburban expansion while inner-city infrastructure crumbles. Beijing's ring roads were supposed to organize the city, but instead created concentric circles of traffic hell. Each ring becomes a wall that divides rather than connects. The Forbidden City sits at the center, surrounded by 6 ring roads like a target for traffic missiles.
6 ring roads.
The second
fuck
ring
me.
follows the old city walls, creating a 32-kilometer parking lot during rush hour.
Going against a big, going in a big roundabout is one of the most like horrible experience that a human can have. Your anxiety just goes up to the fucking roof because you don't know if it's time to go in because you have to move in quick. If it's like a 6-lane roundabout, I don't know how that works. Let's say that you're in the middle lane, you have to go in the circles for many times for you to be able to get out. But what if you're in the 5th line and the guy in the 6th line doesn't want to get out? You're fucked. I can understand like 1-way roundabouts, but 6 ways. There has to be at least like 400 crashes minimum for 1 year on the roundabout. Probably quadruple it. With Beijing's population, fuck no.
Now all 6 rings are congested simultaneously from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. The city adds 1,000 new cars daily, but parking spaces increase by 100. Subway trains are so crowded that professional pushers shove people inside. The system carries 10 million daily riders through infrastructure built for 4 million. They demolished traditional Hutong neighborhoods for 8-lane roads that filled with traffic instantly. They're building a 7th ring road because surely this time it'll fix everything. Bicycles, once Beijing's signature transport, are banned from major roads. The city that
Bicycles are
invented bike
banned?
sharing now treats cyclists like criminals. Housing costs force workers to live in 6th ring suburbs, commuting 4 hours daily.
Fuck
The government's
no.
solution? License plate lottery.
If I had to commute 4 hours to get to work every day, fuck it, just find a new job at that point. Find a new house if you want to keep the job, but bro, you can't be commuting 4 hours. Driving 8 hours to work and 8 hours back after doing a 9-hour shift, get home, sleep, don't even fucking eat. That's not way living. That's no way to live. Fuck that. They gotta fix their roads, man.
With 1 in 2,000 odds. That's not urban planning, that's urban gambling. Phoenix
Gambling.
shouldn't exist. It's a desert city that uses more water per capita than Seattle, spreads across 500 square miles of sun-blasted sprawl, and considers 45 degrees Celsius, 113 degrees Fahrenheit, nice weather.
Nice
The
weather.
city is
Nice weather is 113 fucking degrees. Somebody can get a fucking heat stroke in 100. Somebody can get a fucking heat stroke if they're in 113-degree weather. But that's nice weather for them. Who decided to invest in the fucking Phoenix areas? Seriously.
a grid of 6-lane arterials spaced 1 mile apart,
1 mile
creating
apart.
super blocks of suburban hell. Every trip requires getting on a 45-mile-per-hour road where pedestrians are target practice. They built 60 miles of light rail that nobody rides because the stops are in the middle of highways. Walking to the station means crossing 8 lanes of traffic in 115-degree heat. The city
That
has more
sucks.
golf courses than libraries, using enough water to supply 500,000 homes. Your grass
Golf
lawn requires
courses.
100 gallons daily to stay alive in a place where rain is theoretical. Urban planning means approving another subdivision 40 miles from downtown, where the nearest anything is a 30-minute drive. They're building suburbs so far out that they're technically in Mexico.
No
The
way.
heat island effect makes downtown 20 degrees Fahrenheit hotter than the desert. Water comes from the Colorado River, which is drying up, but they keep building like it's Seattle. Phoenix proves
Why? If you knew this, would you guys still move to Phoenix or any of these cities? I think now moving to any of these cities are banned for me. It would be a nice idea to plan to live in Dubai, but if the attractions have no roads, then how do you get there? You just have to get there by car and hope that you find parking? Fuck no. I mean, you probably can get a taxi, but still, that'd probably be expensive, to be honest.
that just because you can build a city somewhere doesn't mean you should. Urban planning can either elevate human life or turn it into expensive suffering. These cities chose suffering. Like this video if your city made better choices. Subscribe for more urban
I honestly, man, amazing video. I loved it. Man, fucking hell, man. Some cities need to get... Hold up. You guys like this background? I love this background. One second. Let me see if it loads. I love this background. I love this video, but yeah, some of these cities should not have roads like that. Especially the ones that are like highly likely to get flooded. I did not fucking record this video. Oh my fuck, I did not record this video. Oh my god, the whole thing is fucking useless now. That was such a good video too. Oh my god. That's so fucking annoying when I don't press fucking record. Alright, next fucking video. Nobody been watching me. Alright. Oh my god. See, that's what it should look like. My face clear. Alright. So we're gonna be watching Anchors Don't Work the Way That You Think by Accurate.
This is one of the biggest machines on the planet. 100,000 tons of steel, cargo,
100,000.
and raw power.
How
So,
do you stop this?
when it needs to stop in the middle of the ocean, what holds it in place? You're probably thinking, the anchor, obviously. It's huge, it's heavy, it digs into the ground. Simple. Well, what if I told you that's almost completely wrong? On a massive
Tell me
ship,
about it.
the anchor is basically just a placeholder. The real secret to stopping this beast from drifting isn't the anchor. It's a mind-bending piece of physics hidden in the chain.
Chains, okay. How does that work?
So, to get a ship to stay put, you need to fight two invisible enemies, wind and current. They are constantly pushing this massive object. And to fight back, you have two key tools. First, the anchor. Its job isn't to be heavy. Its job is to be a hook. Modern anchors, called stockless anchors, are designed to do one thing perfectly: dig in. When they hit the seabed, their flukes, these shovel-like arms, are shaped to bite into the ground as soon as they're pulled horizontally. But of course, this only works if the seabed cooperates. Solid rock is practically unusable. If you were to apply force to an anchor on top of solid rock, the anchor will just skate right over it. The algae have a similar effect. They create a carpet-like surface where the anchor will simply slide. A sandbed is an improvement. The anchor will dig in much easily, but it will be difficult to find a solid grip. The ideal situation
So what's the point of it? Half of it's fucking useless. How do they get us? How do they even get it to stop then?
is for us to find a sticky seabed, like clay or mud. The anchor will dig in like a claw. But
How do
here's the
they
thing,
know
even
if
with a
you're
perfect
mud?
bite, that anchor is nothing without the real star of the show. It's technically called the Road. And on a big ship, we're talking about hundreds of meters of ridiculously heavy, high durability steel. Every single one of those individual links weighs about 160 kilograms.
Damn.
Yes, that single link is heavier than a grand piano. And while the anchor itself is not lightweight, at roughly 23,000 kilograms, it weighs more than 15 average cars.
15 cars.
And yet, its job is surprisingly simple. It's just there to hold the end of the road in position. The real holding power comes from the total weight of the entire chain and anchor combined, which can top a staggering 243,000 kilograms.
How much? Bro, I don't know fucking kilograms. How much is that in pounds? Is that a lot? Fucking Americans, bro. Oh my god. I need to learn fucking kgs. So, I'm gonna say that's like... Fuck, I don't know. 290,000 pounds, I think. That's my guess. 290,000 or 300,000 pounds. Right. Let's see. Look at the bottom of this. Alright, so that's how much is 243,000 kg in pounds, and it is actually 500,000, and it is actually 535,723 pounds, so fucking double what I was thinking. That's insane how much it actually weighs. Because what can actually pull that back into the ship? How did they get that fucking anchor back in the ship? That's the real question. That can stop it. Okay, cool. What the fuck rails it back? Hello?
To put that in perspective, the entire anchor and road weighs as much as a fully grown blue whale.
Oh my god.
Now, for the real magic. This is where it gets good. You don't just dump the anchor and hope for the best. There's a precise art to it, and it all comes down to a beautiful mathematical concept, the catenary curve. When the anchor hits the bottom, the ship keeps letting out chain, a lot of chain. The goal isn't to make a straight line to the anchor. The goal is to create a long, heavy belly of chain that lies flat on the seabed for a significant distance. This
Okay.
curve is the catenary, and it does two incredible things. First, the sheer weight of hundreds of feet of chain lying on the seabed creates an insane amount of friction. It's like a giant paperweight. But second, and this is the genius part, it acts as a massive perfect shock absorber. When wind or waves push the ship, they aren't pulling directly on the anchor. They're trying to lift this immensely heavy chain off the sea floor. All that energy is spent fighting the weight of the chain. The curve straightens out, absorbing the shock like a giant rubber band. By the time that force actually reaches the anchor, it's been dampened so much it's just a gentle tug. Without that curve,
Really?
any sudden pull would rip the anchor right out of the ground. The catenary is the secret sauce. It's the difference between being anchored and just having a heavy object tied to your boat. Great, you are locked in place, but now you need to leave. How do you pull up an anchor that is designed not to come out,
Nah, let me know.
attached to a chain that weighs
the
more
fuck
than a
do you
blue
lift this?
whale? Well,
Lifting a
you
whole
don't
blue
just
whale.
pull, you drive. The ship uses its main engines to motor slowly forward, right on top of the anchor's location. As the ship moves, the windlass, that large machine on the front, pulls the chain in. The ship's engines do the work of moving the ship. So the windlass only has to lift the vertical weight of the chain, not drag the entire ship sideways.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Once the ship is directly over the anchor, the chain is pulling straight up. This vertical force does something clever. It lifts the back of the anchor's shank, using it as a lever to break the flukes free from the seabed's grip. This whole process requires precision. A captain needs to know exactly how much chain is in the water. Too little, and you lose the catenary effect. too much, and you might have trouble retrieving it. So, how do they measure it? They don't. They read it.
They
Anchor
read it.
chains are built in sections called shackles. Each one is about 90 feet, or, in real measuring dimensions, 27.5 meters long. At each
Okay.
join, the connecting link is painted a bright color, usually red. Then,
Oh,
the
I've
links on
seen
either
them.
side of it are painted white. The number of white links tells you which shackle it is. One white link on each side means it's the first shackle. 2 means it's the second. 3 means the third. It's a simple, rugged analog system that lets the crew just look at the chain and know instantly that, say, 5 shackles are in the water, meaning 450 feet of pure holding power.
450 feet.
This is the elegant, deliberate, and
Dude, that's actually insane. I don't know who came up with that, but that's so fucking smart. Because you don't know exactly how much weight you need to pull or how much. Because if you put too much, then you're pretty much fucked. And if you put too little, you might not stop. So I think there's so much more to being a captain of a ship than just calling yourself a captain. What about little boats? Do little boats still have the anchors? Yeah, right? They definitely do. But I don't think I've heard of like little boats having big anchors, just like the tying knots to keep them still, kind of. I know big ships have those huge fucking ropes that they tie on against shore. I don't know how they get them back if they're pulling it constantly, but hey, fuck it, man. They somehow managed to do it.
physics-driven reality of anchoring a massive ship. It's a slow dance of machinery and natural forces. And then we have Hollywood movies, where a huge battleship can drop the anchor to do an emergency handbrake turn, which is completely inaccurate. So, what would really happen? Best case scenario, the chain would absorb a tiny bit of energy, then the anchor would be ripped out of the seabed and just bounce along the bottom like a tin can tied to a car. The ship would barely even notice. Worst case, the anchor somehow gets a perfect hold on solid rock. The chain snaps instantly under the unimaginable
Hell no.
force. So the next time you see a colossal ship resting peacefully in a harbor, you'll know it's not just sitting there. It's actively engaged in a delicate balancing act. It's held in place not by a simple weight, but by a graceful curve, a hidden law of physics, and the immense distributed power of the chain.
Alright. Now, what would happen if you put two anchors, one on one side, one on the other? Are you just stuck? Yeah, I think you're stuck, actually. I don't know how that would be possible either. You have to go back and then forth, so I don't think it makes sense. Dumbass question. Alright, anyways, great video. I loved it. And going on to the next one. Alright. I'll have to fucking get this shit right. What time is it? I have time. Yo. we need one more video. 3-hour documentary on what happened. Dude, that's so fucking long. Anyways.
They're attacking me again because I'm holding them accountable and because I'm doing my job. I've spent my entire career fighting for justice.
Shut up. Weirdo. Anyways. Alright. Let's get started.
Lewis.
So we're going to be watching Old Dams Are Temporary by Practical Engineer. So we're going to be watching Old Dams Are Temporary by Old Dams Are Temporary by Practical Engineering.
Clark Lake, on the border between Nebraska and South Dakota, might not be a lake for much longer. Together with the dam that holds it back, the reservoir provides hydropower, flood control, and supports a robust recreational economy through fishing, boating, camping, birdwatching, hunting, swimming, and biking. All of that faces an existential threat from a seemingly innocuous menace: dirt. Around 5 million tons of it flows down this stretch of the Missouri River every year until it reaches the lake, where it falls out of suspension. Since the 1950s, when the dam was built, the sand and silt have built up a massive delta where the river comes in. The reservoir has already lost about 30% of its storage capacity, and one study estimated that by 2045, it will be half full of sediment. On the surface, this seems like a silly problem, almost elementary. It's just dirt, but I want to show you why it's a slow-moving catastrophe with implications that span the globe. And I want you to think of a few solutions to it off the top of your head, because I think you'll be surprised to learn why none of the ones we've come up with so far are easy. I'm Grady, and this is Practical Engineering.
Okay.
I want to clarify that the impacts dams have on sediment movement happen on both sides. Downstream, the impacts are mostly environmental. We think of rivers as carriers of water. It's right there in the definition. But if you've ever seen a river that looks like chocolate milk after a storm, you already know that they are also major movers of sediment. And the natural flow of sediment has important functions in a river system. It transports nutrients throughout the watershed. It creates habitat in riverbeds for fish, amphibians, mammals, reptiles, birds, and a whole host of invertebrates. It fertilizes floodplains, stabilizes riverbanks, and creates deltas and beaches on the coastline that buffer against waves and storms. Robbing the supply of sediment from a river can completely alter the ecosystem downstream from a dam. But if a river is more than just a water carrier, a reservoir is more than just a water collector, and of course I built a model to show how this works. This is my acrylic flume. If you're familiar with the channel, you've probably seen it in action before. I have it tilted up so we can get two types of flow. On the right, you have a stream of fast-moving water to simulate a river, and on the left, I've built up a little dam. These stop logs raise the level of the water, slowing it down to a gentle crawl. And there's some mica powder in the water so you can really see the difference in velocity. Now let's add some sediment. I bought these bags of colored sand, and I'm just gonna dump them in the sump, where my pump is recirculating this water through the flume. And watch what happens in the time lapse. The swift flow of the river carries the sand downstream, but as soon as it transitions into the slow flow of the reservoir, it starts to fall out of suspension. It's a messy process at first. The sand kind of goes all over the place, but slowly you can see it start to form a delta where the river meets the reservoir. Of course, the river speeds up as it climbs over the delta, so the next batch of sediment doesn't fall out until it's on the downstream end. And each batch of sand that I dump into the pump just adds to it. The mass of sediment just slowly fills the reservoir, marching toward the dam. This looks super cool. In fact, I thought it was such a nice representation that I worked with an illustrator to help me make a print of it. We're only going to print a limited run of these, so there's a link to the store down below if you want to pick one up.
Pass.
But even though it looks cool, I want to be clear
Pass.
that it's not a good thing. Some
Pass.
dams are built intentionally
Thank
to
you.
hold sediment back,
Appreciate it.
but in the vast majority of cases, this is an unwanted side effect of impounding water within a river valley. For most reservoirs, the whole point is to store
That
water.
looks so weird. Look at how much water it's holding. Oh my god, is there even an exit? Can the water even come out at all? I don't think so. So how do you even build a dam? Now that I think about it, how the fuck do you even build a dam? Because the water is already there. So you just have to build all the cement while the water is pushing you. It doesn't make sense when I think about it, but they somehow are able to do it. So I find that fascinating. But dams are not a thing that should be happening. Let's see. Dams should be kind of impossible to build. And very, very expensive. But this just looks so weird. How much water it's holding.
Controlling floods, generating electricity, drinking, irrigation, cooling power plants, etc. So as sediment displaces more and more of the reservoir volume, the value that reservoir provides goes down. And that's not the only problem it causes. Making reservoirs shallower limits their use for recreation by reducing the navigable areas and fostering more unwanted algal blooms. Silt and sand can clog up gates and outlets to the structure and damage equipment like turbines. Sediment can even add forces to a dam that
Oh my
might
God, look
not
at
have
that.
been.
That's a dam being built. Okay, that takes a lot of fucking cement, first of all. That's amazing, dude. That looks so cool. How long does it take to build a dam, though?
Anticipated during design. Dirt is heavier than water. Let me prove that to
shit.
you real quick.
Just one more screenshot, and this SOP is finally done.
It's a hard enough job to build massive structures that can hold back water, and sediment only adds to the difficulty. But I think the biggest challenge of this issue is that it's inevitable, right? There are no natural rivers or streams that don't carry some sediments along with them. Magnitude
right.
does vary by location. The world's a big place, and for better or worse, we've built a lot of dams across rivers. There are a lot of factors that affect how quickly this truly becomes an issue at a reservoir, mostly things that influence water-driven erosion on the land upstream. Soil type is a big one. Sandy soils erode faster than silts and clays. That's why I use sand in the model. Land use is another big one. Vegetated areas like forests and grassland hold on to their soil better than agricultural land or areas affected by wildfires. But in nearly all cases, without intervention, every reservoir will eventually fill up. Of course, that's not good, but I don't think there's a lot of appreciation outside of a small community of industry professionals and activists for just how bad it is. Dams are among the most
Sounds bad.
capital-intensive projects that we humans build. We literally pour billions of dollars into them, sometimes just for individual projects. This is kind of its own can of worms, but I'm just speaking very generally that society often accepts pretty significant downsides in addition to the monetary costs, like environmental impacts and the risks of failure to downstream people and property, in return for the enormous benefits dams can provide. And
What are
sedimentation
the
is
benefits?
one of those problems that happens over a lifetime. So it's easy at the beginning of a project to push it off to the next generation to fix. Well, the heyday of dam construction was roughly the 1930s through the 1970s, so here we are starting to reckon with it while being more dependent than ever on those dams. And there aren't a lot of easy answers. To some extent, we consider sediment during design. Modern dams are built to withstand the forces, and the reservoir usually has what's called a dead pool, basically a
Dead pool,
volume
okay.
that's set aside for sediment from the beginning. Low-level gates sit above the dead pool so they don't get clogged. But that's not so
Oh.
much a solution as a temporary accommodation,
That makes
since
sense.
this kind of dead pool doesn't live forever. I think for most, the simplest idea is this. If there's dirt in the lake, just take it out. Dredging soil is really not that complicated. We've been doing it for basically all of human history. And in some cases, it really is the only feasible solution. You can put an excavator on a barge or a crane with a clamshell bucket and just dig. Suction dredgers do it like an enormous vacuum cleaner, pumping the slurry to a barge or onto shore. But
Dude, look at how far we have gotten. You have a boat that is taking out dirt off the ground. Dude, technology is fucking amazing. I don't know what that boat in the back is doing. It looks like a bunch of like little houses in a way. It looks weird. Looks like a little port. But honestly, just the amount of fucking power that it would take to move that much fucking sand or dirt off the ground from the water, that's amazing, dude. This is Romania. Now see that little flag on the side.
like an enormous vacuum cleaner, pumping the slurry to a barge or onto shore. But that word feasible is the key. The whole secret of building a dam across a valley is that you only have to move and place a comparatively small amount of material to get a lot of storage. Depending on the topography and design, every unit of volume of earth or concrete that makes up the dam itself might result in hundreds up to tens of thousands of times that volume of storage in the reservoir. But for dredging, it's 1-to-1. For every cubic meter of storage you want back, you have to remove it as soil from the reservoir. At that point, it's just hard for the benefits to outweigh the costs. There's a reason we don't usually dig enormous holes to store large volumes of water. I mean, there are a lot of reasons, but the biggest one is just cost. Those 5 million tons of sediment that flow into Lewis and Clark Reservoir would fill around 200,000 in-dump semi-trailers. That's every year, and it's assuming you dry it out first, which, by the way, is another challenge of dredging. The spoils aren't like regular soil. For one, they're wet.
Okay, but is it even profitable to have a dam if you had to spend that much money on maintaining it and keeping it? Like, if you don't maintain it properly, obviously will most likely fall, like break, after like 20, 30 years probably. But is it really that much profit? Like, is it really worth it to have a dam if it doesn't really bring you any money as a government? I'm curious, why do we have dams? It might sound dumb to some, but I'm actually very curious. There might be a very good reason why we have dams. Obviously, for like flooding, I can see that, but if your city is losing millions on dam, then I don't know, man.
That water adds volume to the spoils, meaning you have more material to haul away or dispose of. It also makes the spoils difficult to handle and move around. There are a lot of ways to dry them out or de-water them, as the pros say. One of the most common is to pump spoils into geotubes, large fabric bags that hold the soil inside while letting the water slowly flow out. But it's still extra work. And for two, sometimes sediments can be contaminated with materials that have washed off the land upstream. In that case, they require special handling and disposal. Many countries have pretty strict environmental rules about dredging and disposal of spoils, so you can see how it really isn't a simple solution to sedimentation, and for most cases, it often just isn't worth the cost. Another option for getting rid of sediment is just letting it flow through the dam. This is ideal because, as I mentioned before, sediment serves a lot of important functions in a river system. If you can let it continue on its journey downstream, in many ways you've solved two problems in one. And there are a lot of ways to do this. Some dams have a low-level outlet that consistently releases turbid water that reaches the dam, but if you remember back to the model, not all of it does. In fact, in most cases, the majority of sediment deposits furthest from the dam, and most of it doesn't reach the dam until the reservoir is pretty much full. Of course, my model doesn't tell the whole story. It's basically a 2D example with only one type of soil. As with all sediment transport phenomena, things are always changing. In fact, I decided to leave the model running with the time-lapse just to see what would happen. You can really get a sense of how dynamic this process can be.
Looks so weird.
I've been riding this trail a long time. I remember when agents
Again, it's a very cool demonstration, but in
It
most
is. It
cases,
really is.
much of the sediment that deposits in a reservoir is pretty much going to stay where it falls, or take years and years before it reaches the dam. So another option is to flush the reservoir. Just set the gates to wide open to get the velocity of water fast enough to loosen and scour the sediment, resuspending it so it can move downstream. I tried this in the model and it worked pretty well, but again, this is just a 2D representation. In a real reservoir that has width, flushing usually just creates a narrow channel, leaving most of the sediment in place. And inevitably, this requires drawing down the reservoir, essentially wasting all the water. And more importantly than that, it sends a massive plume of sediment-laden water downstream. I've harped on the fact that we want sediment downstream of dams, and that's where it naturally belongs, but you can't overdo it. Sediment can be considered a pollutant, and in fact, it's regulated in the US as one. That's why you see silt fences around construction sites. So the challenge of releasing sediment from a dam is to match the rate and quantity to what it would be if the dam wasn't there. And that's a very tough thing to do because of how variable those rates can be. Because sediment doesn't flow the same in a reservoir as it would in a river, because of the constraints it puts on operations like the need to draw reservoirs down, and because of the complicated regulatory environment surrounding the release of sediment into natural waterways. The third major option for dealing with the problem is just reducing the amount of sediment that makes it to the reservoir in the first place. There are some innovations in capturing sediment upstream, like bedload interceptors that sit in streams and remove sediment over time. You can fight fire with fire by building check dams to trap sediment, but then you've just solved reservoir sedimentation by creating reservoir sedimentation. As I mentioned, those sediment loads depend a lot not only on the soil types in the watershed, but also on the land use or cover. Soil conservation is a huge field and has played a big role in how we manage land in the US since the Dust Bowl of the 1930s. We have a whole government agency dedicated to the problem and a litany of strategies that reduce erosion, and many other countries have similar resources. A lot of those strategies involve...
This is boring. I'm not fucking editing this video. This is gonna give me fucking no views at all. Fuck this. That was so boring. I'm sorry. I couldn't. I didn't want to edit this. You get a fucking dislike.
Yes, this is why I switched to injection-free weight loss.
I was eating healthy, working out every...
I'm driving through the...
Alright. Let's go through this one. This one doesn't seem as boring as fucking last one. The last one would just make me fall asleep, dude. This one, please give me a good video. So we're going to be reacting to why the world's tallest tree is kept hidden by eating robins.
redwoods the morning after the big snowstorm, and it's pretty gnarly. Just down
Dude, look at those
trees,
trees.
fallen branches all over the road. I know it's normal for trees to fall over and branches to fall out of trees, but with a 300-foot tall monster tree like these, the consequences are, you know,
300
magnified a
feet.
bit.
That looks so cool.
There are secrets hidden in this forest. Trees taller than
Look at
any
him.
others
Can't even
on
see him.
Earth.
He's
Older
there.
than the Roman Empire. So
older than the Roman
large
Empire.
that their canopies support entire ecosystems. Kept secret so that they won't be destroyed. Check this out, the Grinnell Creek Giant. If this tree were still standing today, it would be the largest on Earth. But it was cut down in 1926, along with most of this forest.
This forest is just 4% of what was here 200 years ago, and lately it's been facing a new threat. Because as it turns out, being the tallest tree is not a blessing, it's actually a curse. I want to tell you how these trees got so damn big, and how it's putting them in danger. It's a story.
Is there a limit to those trees of how tall they can grow, or is there a limit? Is there a limit to how big those trees can get, or can they just keep on growing until they eventually fucking die, like thousands of years later? Because apparently one of them is older than the Roman Empire. That is very, very fucking long time ago. It's actually insane that they're somehow still alive.
Story about how gigantic our planet is, but also how much smaller the internet makes it.
That looks so cool. Oh my god, dude. That looks so pretty. Orange trees. Probably just the sun, but still, it looks
We're driving down
so
the Oregon
cool.
Coast Highway to a place called the Fog Belt.
The fog belt.
A thin band of
My God,
coastline
this is a
in northern
majestic view.
California
Holy
and southern
shit, this is
Oregon
amazing
with
quality.
a mild climate, tons of rain.
Oh my god. I forgot to put fucking... Oh my god, dude. This stream is just going from bad to worst. Alright, so we're going to react to why the world's tallest tree is kept hidden by Aiden Robbins.
I'm driving through the redwoods the morning after the big
redwoods.
snowstorm, and it's pretty gnarly. Just down trees, fallen branches
That
all
looks
over
like
the
such
road.
good beauty.
I know it's normal for trees to fall over and branches to fall out of trees, but with a 300-foot tall monster tree like these, the consequences are, you know, magnified a bit.
There are secrets hidden in this forest. Trees taller than any others on Earth. Older than the Roman Empire.
Older than
So
the Roman
large
Empire.
that their canopies support entire ecosystems. Kept secret so that they won't be destroyed. Check this out, the Grinnell Creek Giant. If this tree were still standing today, it would be the largest on Earth. But it was cut down in 1926, along with most of this forest.
This forest is just 4% of what was here 200 years ago, and lately it's been facing a new threat. Because as it turns out, being the tallest tree is not a blessing, it's actually a curse. I want to tell you how these trees got so damn big, and how it's putting them in danger. It's a story about how gigantic our planet is, but also how much smaller the internet makes it.
Dude, is there like a limit to how big they can even get? Because how big can they actually get? Is there a limit by what time? Is there a limit in how tall they can get? Or if we just leave them, they can still keep going for hundreds of feet up in the air? Because also, how is it possible that that wind doesn't take them down? Because they're so like tall. I'm guessing that if you have strong winds, that it will take most of the trees down, but it somehow doesn't apparently, because they have made it this long. That's so cool. That's so peaceful. That looks so peaceful, dude.
We're driving down the Oregon Coast Highway to a place called the
This is
Fog
Oregon?
Belt. A thin band of coastline in northern California and southern Oregon with a
This
mild
is so
climate,
like
tons of rain and this ever-present
Aesthetic.
coastal fog. Prime conditions that allow for the growth of ginormous trees.
Day 1 in the redwoods. As soon as we got here, got hit by a big winter storm. It's been snowing a ton and it's gorgeous, but that does
It is
also mean
gorgeous.
that a lot of the access roads to get to the big redwood groves and trails are closed. But they're not
Aw.
closed because of the snow, they're closed because a storm can blow down a tree, and these trees are just so damn big that if that happens, it can be a real problem. It can completely block off roads and trap people in these parks. So yeah, that kind of gives you an idea
Makes
of
sense.
the size of tree we're working with here.
Dude, the earth is so
Ridiculous.
beautiful. Look at this
The
video.
coast redwoods that grow here are the tallest trees on Earth. The tallest are between 350 and 380 feet. The largest are over 25 feet in diameter, and the oldest are
25
over
feet.
3,000 years old. These are believed to be the
Dude, some of these trees are older than Jesus. No. Dude, some of these trees have been here before Jesus was alive. That's fucking crazy to think about. Some of these trees were alive at the same time that Jesus was. George Washington, fucking shit ton of people. Some of these trees are older than them. Wow.
largest organism to ever appear on Earth.
That's so cool. dude.
Fossilized seeds of trees similar to redwoods have been found in places as remote as Antarctica. Meaning they're
Antarctica.
likely older than the first dinosaurs, and at one point covered much of the Earth.
There's these fucking massive trees in Antarctica. Where?
Trees can grow in places with almost no light, and they're fire resistant. Redwoods burn pretty frequently, but they keep going. You can find scars in the bark and hollowed out fire caves within the trees.
That's so
These
cool.
trees are so large and complex that their canopies support entire ecosystems hundreds of feet off the ground. Hanging gardens of ferns, rhododendrons, elderberry bushes, earthworms, tiny aquatic creatures, salamanders. Other trees even grow in the trees. Douglas
What the
firs,
fuck?
western hemlock.
There's a tree inside of a tree. That's how big these fucking trees are. They can be an actual plant or like some type of fruit growing inside of this tree. That's amazing.
Sitka spruce, even small redwoods have been found growing high in the canopy, and many of the species living here are scientifically unidentified.
Unidentified. That's so cool.
When a redwood
God
tree
damn.
does eventually die, it spits out a collection of seeds, creating this perfect circle of new trees called a fairy ring. They look really cool. And the roots of all of these trees spread out and intertwine. So in a sense, this entire forest is connected.
I'm starting to realize the dilemma of making a video out here is that no image could ever possibly convey how huge these trees are.
Alright, so
It's
these trees are
so-
gigantic.
Dude, those fucking images look so cool that it doesn't seem real. If that makes sense. They look so beautiful that it doesn't seem like it would be from Earth.
Which sounds like a natural strength, but it's actually
What did this
been
guy record it with?
more of a fatal flaw and has kind of led to these trees' demise. In the mid-1800s, the gold rush brought hundreds of thousands of people to California. Logging accelerated rapidly, and over the next century, the majority of California's old-growth redwood forest was bought up by timber companies and harvested, largely in clear cuts and specifically targeting the largest trees.
Damn.
The fact that any of these trees are still standing is actually thanks to a pretty small handful of activists. In 1918, a group of wealthy donors founded the Save the Redwoods League, using their gigantic pile of cash to buy up 170,000 acres of old-growth forest and then just hold on to it and protect it. Fast forward to 1963, and the head of National Geographic thinks the redwood should be a national park. So he sends an expedition into these logging forests to find a really tall tree and make a case for protecting it. And it works. They find this 367-foot tall tree, the tallest ever recorded at the time. National Geographic describes it as the Mount Everest of all living things, and a few years later the national park is established, with this tree right in the middle.
Fast forward a bit more to the 1970s, and there are plans to expand the park. The logging companies catch wind of this and start cutting down as much of the area around the park as possible. By the time the park expanded in 1978, 80% of the new land had already been logged.
That's so sad.
But the expansion still included 9,000 acres of old-growth forest, tucked away in these deep canyons that timber companies couldn't get to. What no one knew at the time is that those 9,000 acres contain some of the most special trees on Earth. Alright, so there's good news and bad news.
Dude, I'm actually so happy that they were able to keep these forests alive. I want to thank those people. They probably don't give a fuck about who I am, first of all. But it's only thanks to them that we're able to have these trees nowadays. So that's beautiful, and huge respect to those that actually want to stand up for these trees. Because they probably would have fucking cut absolutely all of them down if they were given the chance.
News today. The good news is that the Park Service just reopened the grove with the largest redwoods, so that's where I'm driving to now. The bad news is that I have to leave for the airport in about an hour, so I gotta scramble. So there's a handful of people out here who have pretty much devoted their lives to wandering this forest, hunting for the tallest, most impressive trees. And in the early 2000s, they struck gold, discovering numerous trees here more impressive than any others on Earth.
Really?
Trees that probably came within weeks of being cut down. Among them, the tallest tree on the entire planet. The location of these trees was kept secret out of concern that too many visitors would damage the ecosystem. And with miles of bushwhacking off-trail required to reach the trees, the National Park Service said it would be near impossible to find them. But a few people still wanted to try. I found this discussion thread of people trying to find one of these trees, and it really does seem impossible. One of the best clues is that you, quote, pass through a keyhole in the landscape before getting to the tree. It's like pirates hunting for buried treasure. But somehow, in 2010, after 2 years of searching, the first person finds it. By 2014, 8 people have found this tree, only one each year, and all of them have kept the location under wraps and stressed the importance of treading lightly, navigating the forest respectfully.
Dude, I actually now want to be one of those fucking people that find this massive tree. It's probably one of the most... It's probably going to be very expensive to, first of all, travel to California just to wander around the fucking forest for many days to find this one tree. But if you think about it, it seems worth it, because then you will have a story to tell. Like, kind of like in the sense of like... Kind of like in the sense that it is an amazing story. You can tell like your grandkids or fucking kids that, oh, you went to visit that largest tree in history. Because if you think about it, it can be cut down. I don't know if it's still on to this day, but it can most likely get cut down. And if you think about it, only one person a year gets to see this tree or is able to find it. It is just hidden inside of this huge forest. And how do they even tell? How can they actually even tell if it's the tallest? If you look up, it's just a bunch of trees. So probably a bunch of leaves will cover your view. So there's a chance that they might be lying, so even less people, so even more impressive.
But in October of 2015, all of that changes. An anonymous website leaks the location of many of these champion trees.
Oh my god.
Photos, GPS coordinates, and detailed instructions for getting there. For a handful of the most impressive trees on Earth, a new gold rush has kind of just started.
I'm going to tell you a little story about Bruce Springsteen. These new songs, everything went down.
Within a matter of months, new foot traffic has caused noticeable damage to the trees' surroundings. Bushwhacking to the trees has made trails in the previously untouched forest. Visitors standing on their bases to take photos has damaged the trees and killed the surrounding vegetation. Garbage and even human waste has been left in the area. People have gotten lost and injured trying to navigate the remote and overgrown wilderness. And eventually, this is the result. A complete closure with visitation resulting in a fine of up to $5,000 and up to 6 months of jail time. This story has
Dude, they fucking ruined it for everybody. You can't visit it anymore because some fucking idiots decide to throw garbage and damage the area. That's so fucking annoying. So you have to sneak in and probably risk getting arrested to see this one tree. Now it's not even worth it. Because I don't want to get arrested for missing a tree. They left fucking garbage. They can't be that fucking inconsiderate.
One final twist.
Off limits because too many of them were
Tallest
damaging
tree
the
is
surrounding
not
area.
towering
Fuck
over
you.
all the others. It's like a foot taller than the second tallest. Now consider that trees grow, and at different rates. 16 years after its discovery, it is entirely possible, if not probable, that this is not actually the tallest tree. What we do know is that if there is a new, taller tree, it almost certainly won't be publicized. Researchers are going to do whatever it takes to protect it. And it seems now the only way to do that is to pretend it isn't there at all.
Yeah.
And that is why this story matters. It is maybe the best example of the danger the internet presents to the outdoors. Social media makes it so easy for a beautiful, impressive location to blow up. But when those locations are sensitive and can only handle a small amount of delicate foot traffic, there needs to be a barrier to entry, some level of research and effort to get there. It's either that or this. I don't mind not knowing which of these is the tallest one. What makes this place special isn't standing at the base of a tree and
I wanna
knowing
fucking
it's
be there now.
It's looking up at the canopy and knowing that it's out there somewhere, silently growing old in a world high above our own. Thanks for watching.
Alright, first of all, one of probably the best videos, most interesting videos, most beautiful videos I've seen in this channel. I actually fucking love this video. It was so aesthetic, amazing storytelling, and it wasn't fucking boring. It is 100% going to get copyrighted because of the... It is 100% going to get copyrighted because of the background music. Towards the end, I heard it. I was like, yo, this is beautiful music. Yes. I'm going to get fucking... I'm going to get copyrighted the living fuck out of me. I don't think I might be able to post it, but fuck it. I'm going to try to. Regardless, this is an amazing video. See? Matter of fact, here, come here. You got a like. That was absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful, man. Let me just look at something. There's nobody watching right now, right? Nah, there's nobody watching. Alright, that's good. Alright, man. How many videos do you have? Song. Alright, you know what? We'll just end it here. I'll see you guys next one. I think I just got bored. I just had to edit some videos and yeah. I had to fucking see what I had to edit. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching.